Hi everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Talisa,
And I am Gabriel.
and we are a couple of therapists.
In today's session, we're going to be discussing parasocial relationships.
So, what do you think about parasocial relationships?
I think they're super interesting, especially in the time that we live in, which we have so much accessibility to technology, to people, social media. And I think undeniably, we all have to admit that we have some sort of parasocial relationship. But that being said, I think let's start by maybe defining it.
So, the term parasocial relationships was first used in 1956 by researchers Donald Horton and Richard Wohl. And yes, we brought notes today.
Awesome, yeah. It definitely a very broad topic in the sense of that there's many layers to what a parasocial relationship is, and there's many different types of what we call parasocial relationships today. So, I'll throw in some examples like celebrities such as musicians, athletes. What are some others that you think?
Well, also, the term is used to refer the wishful friendly or intimate relationships that fans form with celebrities or with a figure, a prominent figure in the media, someone that you see a lot of in different forms of media. Parasocial relationships are usually one-sided, and I think that it's also kind of like in the word. So para is alongside,
Correct.
sos from social is companion, and then ial is pertaining to. So parasocial means one-sided relationships.
Yeah, and I think that also it's a key element here that, when speaking about parasocial relationships, is that, again, we need to highlight that these are one-sided relationships. Like for example, I'll give an example of myself. So if I have a parasocial relationship with Sabrina Carpenter,
Right.
'cause she's popping right now.
Yeah.
So if I had a parasocial relationship with Sabrina Carpenter, this would only be one-sided. Sabrina Carpenter would never in the history of ever would know who I am, how I feel, or anything.
But you are aware of her activities, the personality that she wants to portray. Like, in a way, these people they give us a certain access to their lives.
Correct.
Which makes it feel like we know them.
Exactly, and I think that, over the past, recent years, that has become a little bit more present in the lives of many people, given that, and I think we talked about this when we first came up with this specific topic, which was the beginning of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
How we were reserved back to our quarantines and our homes, and we were engaging more with the world from a technological perspective.
Yeah.
So that opened the floodgates, I would say.
It kind of heightened this thing of parasocial relationships because everyone was doing something virtually. You had Zoom happy hours. You had a lot of shows and movies that were coming out, a lot of different celebrities and media people pushing out content, and it felt like there was also this boom in the people in TikTok. There was kind of like a shift, I feel, that TikTok wasn't just this musical app anymore. It was more of like different forms of content that made you feel very personal with the people on the other end.
Yeah, and also just, we primarily in the conversations that we're going to be having today, I think we're going to be highlighting a lot of parasocial relationships in relation to public figures. And the reason why we're doing this is because these are the most common types of parasocial relationships. Now, parasocial relationships, again, if we go to the basic of the definition, it can literally mean, we saw some of the examples that were, teachers.
That guy that makes your coffee every day.
The barista, correct. The barista, like when you go to your local convenience store and the person who checks you out.
Yeah.
And again, just to kind of highlight, it's a one-sided sort of relationship when you can be aware of some aspects of the other person's personal, and I will put that in quotation, personal life.
Right. So it's basically you feel very strongly about this person, maybe because you've encountered them a couple of times, or maybe because you have this perception of who they are. Maybe they feel friendly to you. Maybe you see yourself reflected in them, which I think is the case with a lot of media celebrities and personalities, that you kind of like their way of being, or you see yourself there, or you want to be like them. And so that creates this sense of caring for that person. And you can have that with someone that you see on a regular basis, or someone that, like a friend of a friend that you meet at a house party, and every time that you go out, they're there. And so, yeah, parasocial relationships are not necessarily confined to media celebrities and influencers, but those are the most common, and what we mainly see in this day and age of social media.
Perfect. And yeah, I completely agree that, it's important to note that in a way these are primarily common. I mean, it's not uncommon in today's day and age. Now, there is a different type of kind of parasocial, and I think it's called parasocial interaction.
Yes.
Which we also kind of were talking about earlier, and those involve just everyday interaction in which we have to interact with any sort of content, but there's no continuous emotional attachment, right?
And it's not like a dialogue. Like, I'm not having a conversation with someone necessarily.
Okay.
But for example, every single time I read a book or I watch a movie or a show, there is a parasocial interaction there, because I'm getting something out of the people, the actors, the actresses, the fictional characters, all of these things. And they're not really necessarily having any interactions with me. So it's parasocial interactions are in the majority of our interactions with social media and forms of other forms of media. So, that is a very normal part of our new world in the digital age.
Yeah, and I think just to give a little bit more context, I mean, going to the movies is a parasocial interaction.
Yeah.
Now, the relationship aspect comes in the emotions that we start to feel in relation to this content that we're consuming, and I think the consistency of those specific relationships. Not relationships, sorry, feelings.
Right, like you start seeing someone on the screen. For example, everyone started seeing Pedro Pascal, and there was a parasocial interaction with him, and then we started seeing more of him, and more of his personality, and more of what he stands for. And that created this parasocial relationship with a lot of people, that they care for him, now they follow him, they want to see him in certain places, meet and greets.
Yeah, I have a parasocial relationship with Pedro Pascal, for sure.
I think all of us do. That's Daddy Pascal. But the thing with parasocial relationships too is that, yes, we have more accessibility to these types of relationships now, but they've been around.
Oh no, yeah. I think one of the interesting kind of components of, again, the parasocial relationships is that it's this one-sided emotional thing of your perception of, this interaction with this other individual. And I mean, we can roll this back all the way back to, the ages of, monarchies. Well, we still have a few of those around, but when this was like prevalent in the world, and we could talk about courts, for example, which are, the individuals who surrounded, the principal individuals in the monarchy. And I think we were talking about, I think it was Louis XVI.
Okay.
Maybe
you can tell me more about that.
Maybe it's not the correct number, but it was one of the Louis.
One of the Louis.
One of the Louis. Sorry, I'm not a historian, folks. But it's in the Palace of Versailles. So one of the things that he did that was really interesting was, and this is kind of like a side note so we can get a little bit of context, was that he, in a way, sequestered all the court, right, around France, and brought them to the palace. And people, it was this constant competition for attention from him.
Okay.
But because there was different, hierarchies of I guess, positions and power, some people never really got to interact with him, even when they were there.
So like a difference of classes.
Correct. But all these individuals were kind of in the same space together, and he was such a presence in Versailles that some people develop parasocial relationships with them. And this is we're talking, before the time of phones and social media. Like this has been always a thing in which people develop these sort of relationships. And I think this is one of the primary reasons why we wanted to highlight more of the celebrity side, because it's more common. It's more common to want to develop a relationship with somebody who has things that perhaps you don't have, or you feel that you're lacking, or that you feel that some sort of way if this person gave you a space in their lives. So I think
inspiration too.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, do you think that back in the day with Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Albert Einstein, these like figures that were very relevant in our history, I am curious, like, were there parasocial relationships with these types of people that came up with such important and life-defining concepts and things?
I'm pretty sure there had to be, especially with these large figures that had significant bodies of literature.
Right.
People that were published across the world and different places, and people were reading and creating these ideas of these individual thinkers of like, maybe I want to see what he does next, and he's such a amazing person, not knowing anything about them and their personal life.
They must be.
Exactly.
Right, because all we see with these figures is what they choose to put out, which in many cases is their work or what they are thinking and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah.
So like in the 1800s, a lot of people maybe had parasocial relationships with fictional characters, people that they read in books. And then with the print media coming in the 1900s and, with the invention of the television and all of that, we had more of the television media personality that people had more of a parasocial relationships with this person. It could be a TV newscaster, right? Someone that, in a way, they are having breakfast with you. That person that you see in the morning talking about the weather, talking about the news, you develop a sort of relationship because every morning you play the TV and they're there. You're having your eggs and bacon and they're kind of talking to you.
And I think we see that very evident in a lot of especially here in the United States. I think we see that in many different aspects of society, not to get too deep into this particular topic, but I mean, I think politics has been a really, really big one where many people develop parasocial relationships with a primary politician, because that's their job. Their job is to speak to the people, right?
Yeah.
And I'm clicking on the news and I hear so-and-so speaking and I hear, I want to do this for you,
right?
And I feel identified and I connect with this person and I think I know their values and I think I know their intentions, and as we all know, in politics, is to get votes. So it manifests itself in many different ways and in many different areas, not only specific celebrities, but in many different areas of our daily life. So I think it's important that we're aware that this is a real, I would say, phenomenon, that it's so prevalent in today's society.
And we also know that it is a little bit of marketing, a little bit of social psychology too. They tell you what the people want to hear, what works. We know that when you address someone by their name or when you address someone like that, I'm doing this for you, that adds a level of being personal. You feel like, okay, now you're talking to me.
Yeah, and I think it's super interesting that you said that when you're addressing you, and I just thought of this, that let's take Taylor Swift for example. How many of these very, very, very large celebrities tend to, and also influencers,
oh yeah,
tend to name the group of people that follow them, like Swifties, like believers.
Interesting,
For
right?
Justin Bieber. And then whenever, you know, they group all their followers and with this name, you know, if I'm a really, 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 really big fan of Taylor Swift and I hear Taylor saying, to you, my Swiftie, I'm like, that's me. That I'm a Swiftie.
And now you have community and connection, which is something that our society deeply needs and deeply lacks in this moment of like the post-digital world where we're more connected than ever, but we're more disconnected too. And so, yeah, when you have that group of people that share that passionate, you know, hobby or share the same beliefs and interests, it brings you together. And that is so fascinating. I had never thought of it like that, but it's so true that it groups you with, and it makes it feel like you're part of something bigger.
Exactly. And I think that, you know, kind of piggybacking on what you said in relation to the need for community, especially in today's day and age where we're so connected yet disconnected, like you said. You know, people feel identified, and we ride the wave. We truly do.
You know, that other thing with the monarchs, now that we're talking into kind of when else in history has that been a thing? And we can theorize, obviously, a lot of different ages and with like Albert Einstein and all of that. But with the monarchs, the Princess Diana, I remember
oh my goodness,
how
yes.
it was kind of like a universal grief of some sorts when Princess Diana passed. And even in like the royal weddings that we see with the royal family in England, like they are televised and millions of people tune in. And it is so fascinating because I think that a lot of people, obviously, yeah, we know that monarchy has been extinguished in a lot of places, and it's only a few places that still have it. But especially the one in England, it's very prominent, and it speaks to that parasocial relationship that people feel like they know them, and there's this allure to having royals and to seeing their wedding and what are they doing. And with the Princess Diana, it was crazy. I remember my parents told me how they felt when the people's princess died.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna share something with you. So obviously, you know, I think it was called The Crown.
The show,
the TV series. Yeah. So when The Crown came out, I love history stuff, as you know. Yeah. So I tuned in to watch The Crown, and I absolutely loved it. You know, the acting was impeccable. I mean, in my opinion, guys. So, but I remember seeing the Princess Diana whole thing, and during that time where I was watching The Crown, I decided to do a little bit of outside research on what really occurred, because I wanted to see the character. You know how like when you see something based in real life, you still look up the people.
You have to.
So
how close is it?
Exactly. So I went in and I looked up, you know, because there's so much footage of her. I mean, she was incredibly popular.
And humanitarian.
Yeah, and she was captured beautifully in so many ways.
Yeah.
And I remember talking about, again, to parasocial relationships, that when I started doing all this research, I felt almost sad. I was like, you know, I felt some sort of way, and I've never met this person. I've never met this person, and, you know, when she passed away, I don't know the
I think it was 1999. I mean,
you know, I was
super little.
Yeah, I was super young, so I never had a true chance to really develop any sort of parasocial relationship with this person.
She died in 1997, so
Imagine.
I was like 3 months old. So, and I feel like I felt it.
Yeah. So yeah, like and you know, and kind of a short parenthesis here to highlight this incredible individual. So it speaks to the amount of influence that she had, and obviously in a positive way. Let's definitely recognize that. But great example of a parasocial relationship with, you know, a great individual who really captured and touched the lives of so many people in so many positive ways, except her husband, apparently.
I remember kind of in looking at the passing away of celebrities and how that impacts society too. I remember when I watched Glee in high school-ish, like, yeah, a few years ago, well, not a few years ago, but I think I started watching it in high school around that time. And Glee was like 7 or 6 seasons, and it was like 20 episodes back when shows really did good at having episodes. Anyway, I remember I got so attached to Glee, and there was one of the main characters, Cory Monteith, and he passed. And I remember feeling, to this day, if I watch the episodes around the time when he died, because they made an episode dedicated to his passing and, you know, kind of commemorating him and everything. To this day, I watch that and I have such deep pain and grief, which is so interesting because I never knew this individual. I will never know this individual, but through the show, I felt some of that connection, or at least I could sense the connection that the other cast members had. So it develops this sort of empathy with the people that you see, to the point where if they pass away, and then you see these TV shows or these documentaries, like I remember the Amy Winehouse documentary, that was so painful to me.
Wow.
And again, these are people that maybe I wasn't even following them that deeply because I was younger. But then you see someone, have an interaction.
Yeah, I have a similar one. I'm a big fan. The past couple of years with Netflix, I became I've always been a big fan of, you know, like speed and racing, but over the past few years I truly became a little bit of a bigger fan of Formula One. So I did it, obviously deep dive into Formula One. So Senna was such an impactful character, well, not character, but impactful figure in Formula One, given, you know, his upbringing and the fact that he rose to fame by being such an incredible driver, and his story is so inspiring in so many ways. And Senna passing away in in a race, he crashed the car, and he passed away shortly after he was taken out of the vehicle and taken to care. His injuries were too major, and to this day, when I tune into the season of Formula One, and I think every year or every so often they would do kind of like an homage to Senna for his incredible racing abilities and to being such an incredible individual both on the track and off the track. And it gets me, and I never met this individual. I wasn't even a fan of this sport when I was growing up. It came recently. It's only been a few years. I would say like 4 or 5 years that I started to get really into it, and it still like gets me. And I saw his documentary also, and I was like, ah.
What did you see in him that made you relate to him or kind of connect?
It was his unshakable passion for the sport, in how he breathed, he ate, he slept, everything was Formula One. Like, to him, racing was where he felt the most human in a way. And I was like, I resonated with that because we're in a world now where it's oftentimes we're just working so much and trying to deal with everything, and to strive for one's passion to hit the most maximum ability of every cell in your body was so inspiring to see. And the fact that he took every race as his last, like he just rode the track like he needed to win every single time, and that was obviously incredibly inspiring. And at that time where he was racing, Formula One was incredibly dangerous. Some of the safety things that we have now were not in place, and that man raced like this was not one of the most dangerous sports in the world. And
so seeing kind of like a courage and bravery in him too.
It was impressive to say the least, his dedication to the sport. And I never met this individual, and his passing still kind of resonates in some way in my life whenever I watch the races, and whenever they do the Brazil Grand Prix, where they always do They always do kind of like an homage to him, and they recognize him always. And drivers will do these little things where they'll put like the colors of Senna, and like it's really inspiring. So that's another example of parasocial relationships. So now we've been talking about, obviously, about regular examples, of common daily examples, but parasocial relationships, obviously, as anything, can escalate to something a little bit more extreme. But I'll let you kind of go into that and describe that particular side.
So, the parasocial relationships, like you said, can escalate. They can have positive effects, negative effects. I mean, as anything, I think there is some benefits to having a parasocial relationship. I think it teaches us empathy. It teaches us how to connect. It can be a source of inspiration, and it can help with these feelings and identity formation and all of these things. But there are cases of extreme parasocial relationships that can affect people negatively. One extreme case could be when a parasocial relationship is taken to that maximum point. It can become erotomania, which is a psychiatric condition and psychotic disorder where someone's delusions tell them that someone else is in love with them or infatuated with them.
Correct. And these oftentimes these specific cases of erotomania can lead to tragedy.
They can be deadly. And a few examples of that is John Hinckley Jr., who assassinated President Ronald Reagan, attempted to assassinate, believing that it would win him the love of actress Jodie Foster. Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon, claiming Lennon communicated with him through music and that they were destined to be together. And we also see it in the show You in Netflix. Yeah. There is this sense of the other person is completely infatuated and in love with me. And that happens in a way through these parasocial relationships that we have. If we are seeing someone online and we feel like their songs are speaking directly to us, in extreme cases, that could lead to this obsession of some sorts, of this distortion of reality, and it can be harmful. Yeah,
because it leads to these extreme acts to get either the attention, or this individual goes into a full psychotic episode in which the delusion is so detrimental, and this is this constant fight, like they love me, they don't love me, I have to take vengeance on this person. And that's when we see these tragic events occur, when either somebody is attempted, their life is attempted on, or we see actually somebody pass away, like John Lennon. Another one, I don't know her name, but I do know, given that I saw the Andy Warhol documentary, the Andy Warhol was also, somebody tried to murder him, and it was this woman that had some sort of interaction with him at some point, and then she became obsessed with him, and then shot him multiple times, and he almost died.
Gianni Versace too.
Oh my goodness,
right?
Yes. No, actually no.
No?
No, I think Gianni Versace was with, it was perhaps at the end, but this individual who murdered Gianni Versace was on a killing spree, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah. But many people do believe that he did have some sort of infatuation.
Don't quote us. Do not quote us.
Yeah, do not quote us on that. But some people did believe that he did have some sort of infatuation, and he waited for him to come out, and he knew that, because Gianni Versace was a very popular figure in Miami at that time, and everybody knew where he lived. So I think that there might be some correlation there, or some connection with this individual having erotomania. Yeah.
Obviously, erotomania is the extreme cause, and that's something that is not very common, but there are other negative side effects or negative consequences of parasocial relationships, and a lot of it can stem from feeling inferior or comparing yourself to these figures and celebrities, feeling like you will never achieve what they have, or how come they have all of these things and I don't have them. And so it can create this kind of power dynamic, which I feel like as long as there are these people in positions of power, there will be some sort of parasocial relationship, because you have someone in this kind of upstate, like status, like you have someone that's above you, someone that has fame, money, status, whatever it is. And so that creates this power dynamic, and now it's kind of like you see them in this inaccessible way, while at the same time having access to their life in some sort of way. So it creates this weird conflict, because what is the line between reality and fiction, or not fiction, but like social media and reality? Like when we see Megan Thee Stallion coming on Instagram and doing a live, what is real about that though? It can feel very real because you're seeing it on your phone, you see her, and you can feel like FaceTime. Live, and it's live. We know what she's doing immediately. But that parasocial interaction is confined to that interaction only. And so we do not have access to her life, her feelings, her day-to-day. All of that is an imagined thing that can distort reality sometimes.
One of the questions that I think comes up for me, when I think about parasocial relationships is kind of that, like, what does this relationship does for you, or what does this relationship do for you? And I think about this question because let's take, for example, a celebrity that is well known, and it's very famous and because of their craft, and all of a sudden they're accused of something,
which we see a lot.
And now, especially with different cases of accusations of any sort, where they do go to court, I think that we see a lot of the decisions that kind of infiltrate to some point the legal system based on the public opinion of people truly having an opinion about this individual, thinking that they truly know them.
Well, because also imagine, this is someone that you've been following for years, someone that you relate to, someone that you've developed this parasocial relationship with, and all of a sudden, they're not who you thought they were. That could be a cause for rupture within us, right? You're questioning your reality in some way. You could be, right? Depending on the extent of the parasocial relationship. Correct. But like, for example, if right now someone said that Pedro Pascal has done something harmful, I would be extremely taken aback. You would be
I would be super disappointed.
Everything has been a lie. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And that can be very harmful, because this changes our thought processes. It changes the way we've seen this individual, what we've thought, what we've believed.
And I think we have spoken about this a few times, especially that now we've decided to be more public and be in this platform and many platforms.
Yeah.
Speaking that we do have, to some extent, if we're exposing ourselves to many different people online, we do have a sort of responsibility.
Yeah.
And it, these celebrities who have so much influence have a responsibility, because they can influence good things as well as bad things. If somebody says, I want to gather X amount of people here and I want to see you guys on Tuesday night in somewhere, I am pretty sure if that person has enough influence, all these individuals will be there. So it's a very interesting dynamic, especially the exposure and the amount of accessibility that we have to these individuals.
Right, like what's the balance? Because I can
Mhm.
also imagine for people who do have big platforms or celebrities, it affects them too because they're in the receiving end of this parasocial relationships and interactions where you either have people who are idolizing you and they're adoring you and putting you in this pedestal, or people that are hating on you. They are saying really rude and mean things and really wanting to bring you down. That is also a parasocial relationship. It's
Mhm.
just the negative one, not the positive one.
Exactly.
So it must be very confusing to deal with for celebrities too.
We have the perfect example of this, which is the documentary that we saw about these two singers.
The Tegan and Sarah documentary.
Oh my God! So and you know, I think this is a perfect segue into this particular section, which, you know, they were these two singers. I think they're sisters, right?
Yes, really quickly, the documentary, we really recommend you watch it. It's called Fanatical, the catfishing of Tegan and Sarah. You've probably heard their music before, but they are, yeah, two siblings, two sisters, and their music is really good. They've been in the space of music for years.
Mm-hmm. They so they were these upcoming popular singers who develop a very close-knit fan base. I think I remember that. It was very,
Yeah.
you know, people were
And
very,
from the LGBTQ community, because, you know, they're from the community themselves, and so they had, their brand was very inclusive too.
and people felt very identified, and her fan base was, to say the least, regular individuals who need a community, and they found it through them. And it was, you know, to hear a lot of their fans speak was really
Yeah.
really a beautiful thing on how they influenced their life in such a positive way. But then what ended up happening is that Tegan and Sarah, they opened themselves up to interact with their fans. They had I think it was like a website where they would chat with
And
them.
they had meetups. Like, it was, there were parasocial relationships with them, but it was also kind of like Tegan and Sarah would also interact. So
they would respond.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there was a line that was blurred too, because obviously at the beginning, when it was accessible for them to interact with fans, they would. So they did create relationships.
Yes. So it got to the point where, you know, they created this dynamic with their fan base in which their fans felt that they were so accessible and that they truly knew them.
Yeah.
You know, because they were obviously interacting with their fan base, and all of a sudden, and again, sorry, if you want to watch this documentary, we highly recommend it.
Oh,
At
yeah,
this point, a lot of spoilers
Yeah.
coming your way. So there was a moment in time in which they realized that some people were impersonating them and connecting with fans
In harmful ways.
in harmful / ways, which included a lot of sexual interactions.
Some fans thought that they were having a relationship with
Yep.
them, like straight up romantic relationship. And they had text messages, emails. It was really crazy because I feel like there was a moment where there were pictures too. And so the fans were like, no, this has to be them because
Yeah.
there are pictures.
And I remember one of the primary kind of elements that made a fan believe it was truly them is that I guess there was multiple individuals impersonating them.
Yeah.
And these individuals hacked their computers and they were sharing unreleased music.
Oh, yes.
And they were asking their fans, like, who they were having this, you know, so-called relationship with them. They were like, what do you think? I haven't released this. I want you to listen to it. And it was a stranger. It wasn't them.
And again, with that, I want you to listen and I want your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That makes us feel so special. And again, there's another case, which this isn't necessarily a parasocial relationship, but somewhat similar in that sense. I remember I saw a headline a few months ago or a year ago, something like that, about this woman that was scammed out of, I want to say, maybe $800,000.
Wow.
Something very huge and ridiculous, because she thought she was having a romantic relationship with Brad Pitt.
I remember this one with the images.
Brad Pitt, someone, the scammer had literally photoshopped pictures of Brad Pitt in the hospital saying that they needed her help. I need your help. My love. I love you. We're going to be together. That obviously, that is not a parasocial relationship. You're having a romantic relationship. Someone is responding to you, but it plays into this thing of, this is a celebrity. This is someone that you're not supposed to have that access to, but you feel like you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you develop these feelings.
I saw those pictures on Instagram that this individual was sharing. I'm sorry, I'm laughing not because of the situation, because it's definitely...
But the pictures were...
the picture were really... They
really
were really bad.
But they can get you like that. And so I feel like it's important to keep in mind, parasocial relationships are here to stay. Social media has made it even more accessible, easier for you to have relationships with people that are in these positions of power, fame, celebrities. I don't think that's going away. I think that it'll just continue to advance. So it's not necessarily that we have to be completely rejecting the idea of parasocial relationships, but I do feel like it's being more aware of, again, like we said that first episode, like what is the media that we're consuming, and understanding that this might feel very personal, and it's okay if to an extent it does. However, keep in mind that this person doesn't really know you. This person cannot reciprocate. Yeah. And that is important, because it is not a reciprocal relationship, which that can feel isolating at times for you. It's like finding the balance for you. What is the balance for you when you're interacting with these celebrities and media personalities?
Yeah, and again, back to what you mentioned, I mean, what's the content that we're consuming? I mean, I think it's important that we ask ourselves the question, what is this doing for me? And what am I getting out of this? Because that would highlight a lot of the reasons why you're consuming X, Y content.
And also, like, for example, I'm watching Love Island. I love reality TV, and I think it has become even a bigger industry. It's blown up. We see reality TV left and right. That blurs the lines even more, because these are real people. These are not necessarily celebrities. These are people like us that are going to a show and supposedly being themselves and all of that, right? So there is an openness for parasocial relationships. But it's also, when you're watching these shows, it can get to a point where you're like, what are you doing? Like, you get very heated, you get very involved, and we're seeing it with Love Island right now, that the fans are doing very extreme behavior and problematic behavior towards the cast members, because there has been a few, people have come out saying that 2 contestants said slurs, and so they got removed from the island. And simultaneously, people in social media were going wild. I think that one of the contestants, their family got ICE called on them. Like,
oh my goodness,
it was very extreme. And so it's for you to realize, if you are getting heated, or if you are getting some type of very intense reaction to the media you're consuming, maybe taking that step back and pausing and saying, I don't know the full story here. I don't know this person fully. I am seeing one thing. Like, it's finding that balance so that you also don't engage in harmful behavior.
Yeah, I think that I specialize primarily in my therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, and we see a lot of this happening, and how these negative perceptions really truly affect the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, which is the primary things we focus on these styles of therapy. And people are being emotional, their thoughts are raging, like going from an emotion of like seeing this thing happen to the thought, and I'll take this example that you gave, and the thought of like this person deserves X, Y, and Z, and the behavior of actually executing an action that would harm somebody else, that in the reality of the whole thing, we don't know them. Yeah. We have no clue who they are. We have no clue what their family is going through. We only see what's happening on the show.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very valuable to realize when things, like you said, when you're starting to feel this very deep and strong emotional feelings, when you're watching any sort of content or any sort of thing, to take a step back and really kind of reflect on where you are right now. And again, I want to highlight that this is specifically to these celebrity situations, because we can have very strong feelings about content that we're consuming, that it's in relation to world news, for example. And I
get it too, because sometimes you're scrolling on Insta or TikTok and you find the most wild video of someone saying the nastiest thing or something like out of a left field, and you're in that parasocial interaction that you're having, you're like, what is this? Emotions all over the place. You get really heated, maybe because it goes against your values or your beliefs, or maybe because it's degrading or whatever it is, and you feel it. So I've been there, I get that. But it's like you said, it's when the emotions then lead to the behavior that's where we have to be kind of more careful how you are projecting these emotions that you're having with the parasocial interaction or relationships.
Yeah, because these parasocial relationships are very evident and very present when this individual does something that we feel the need to react and behave according to what they did, because we feel that it was done to, like, we feel offended. We feel like it was done to us.
Exactly.
And I think it's such an interesting thing now, and especially with so much social media, and
what do you think is the future of parasocial relationships? Like, how do you see that in 10, 20 years?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's it's a little bit scary to think, especially with all this access that we have. I think that technology is going to get to a point where our relationships are ever changing. Our style of communication is ever changing. And I think one of the key elements that is going to truly identify the future of parasocial relationships, and all of you are free to put in your comments about this, but I think artificial intelligence will change the landscape of social interaction, because, and this is a completely new episode.
No, because you said you started talking about AI and my mind just went. Blah, blah, blah.
I know, and I saw it. So, I mean, I saw a video the other day, and I was like, pobrecita, la señora se cayó, and it was not a real old lady. Like, it was an AI created video.
Those are scary.
And I was like, so we're just gonna start consuming content that is not even real people.
So wait, because I've seen a lot of people that are falling in love with Chat GPT or with models of AI and creating relationships with Chat GPT. Is that a parasocial relationship? What is that? Because is it one-sided? But you're getting something back.
But the thing, I think this is a complex
and we
topic.
might have to do another episode, because
tune in for like a few sessions in, and we'll talk about
and we'll be talking about chat.
Parasocial relationship
chat. The fact that we call it chat, people literally say, like, let me ask chat, like it's just
but think about this. We say, I'm gonna go ask chat. Like, I know, we know, everybody knows what a chat is, which is a space in which you communicate something. But we have molded the word chat to sound as if it's a name.
It's a person.
It's exactly. We have humanized it in a way.
We have, and I see so many people talking about, like, I use chat as my therapist. She is the best. And so, again, whole other topic, but I do find it interesting, these people that I've seen in the media say, oh no, I fell in love with ChatGPT.
Wow.
And there's a relationship there. Maybe, do we have the words? Do we have the term? No, maybe we don't have a term for what this relationship is with a artificial intelligent model, chat program, whatever it is, but it is in that gray area because it's one-sided, because it's not human, but it's also saying something. It's reciprocating something. You're receiving something.
But
it's interesting,
it's
right?
I'm like, yeah, I'm also like going wild. I think that, but isn't it molded to say what you wanted to say? So it's almost a relationship within yourself with prompts that are kind of filtered and generated. It's almost like what's that word? It's almost like a confirmation bias bot.
It's made to answer how you want it to answer. It's made to affirm and kind of like go. It's meant to be a yes man for you. But it doesn't feel like that for some people. Wow. There's a disconnect that's happening for some people, and it's becoming romantic. It's becoming, I project you as a human being, or I project you as an entity, something that is, separate from myself.
Wow.
And that's what's causing this romantic relationship.
I think there's a movie, Her.
Yeah, Her.
Her, I think, which... I think that, and again, we'll probably have to do an entire session about this, but in this particular case, I believe Her was primarily kind of like a grieving tool. Like
I honestly didn't see the movie.
It's very phenomenal.
I know, I've heard.
So AI can serve in many different ways for us as tools to improve our social interactions and undergo specific things that are related to psychology and therapy, but at the end of the day, the human component, it's needed. And I think in a world, I'm going to quote you, in a world in which we have so much connection, yet we are so disconnected, right. It's important to have the human component, and it's important to accept that, yes, it's okay that I may have some parasocial relationships with some celebrities.
At the end of the day, we're all human, and humans were made to crave connection and social interactions, and so we're adapting to find that social component in any way we can. Yeah,
we just want to be heard and seen and acknowledged.
We do.
So I think it's something to consider, especially now that, again, we're consuming so much content. You're consuming our podcast,
and because it's quite literally part of our lives. I feel like with every year that passes, it gets harder and harder to be off the grid, to be completely removed from social media. You can do it, yes, and there's people who do it, but it's hard when you are in the middle of it to actually remove yourself. It kind of like feels like you're removing this lifeline to connection, the perceived connection.
Yeah. Wow.
But we would love to know your comments, your opinions, your thoughts about parasocial relationships. Do you feel like you have some? Like, what are some of those?
Yeah, I think it would be great to hear, given that we shared a few that we've had, I think it would be great to hear some of your thoughts and some of your parasocial relationships and your opinions related to what that parasocial relationship is like.
What it does for you.
Yeah. So thank you all again. We truly appreciate you guys tuning in to our sessions here. We'll keep putting out a lot of more content. Tune in if you are a Spanish speaker. Definitely tune in for session number 5, which will be completely in Spanish. We're going to be touching an incredible topic that it's relatable to everybody in the Spanish-speaking community. Yeah. So we're very excited to announce that one. But yes, please give us your thoughts, your comments. We're excited to be here, to be sharing this information with you. And we can't wait to share the next topic with you next week. So thank you all so much.
And if you have any topics that you would like us to cover or talk about, feel free to send that over too. You can find our socials in the bio. So yes, thank you so much. Till next time.
Bye-bye.